This chicken dinner is going to have some Asian flavors tonight. Turned out really good. Here's how I made it. Chicken legs and thighs are probably some of the best value that you're going to find at the meat counter. These were only 88 cents a pound, so $3.34 for these four big pieces of chicken. What a deal. And yeah, I am going to throw away some of the skin and bone, but I think even if you account for that factor, it's still a great deal for meat. Hindquarters are a leg with the thigh attached, but obviously this recipe would work great with just thighs or just legs. So I'm going to season up this chicken with some salt and pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and some ground ginger. And I'm not measuring anything here. I'm just going to sprinkle an even coating of all those seasonings on both sides of the chicken. Now this is not absolutely necessary, but I like to cook them on a rack like this. This is just a little grill rack that happens to fit perfectly inside this baking sheet. And I like the rack because when the fat renders from the chicken, it'll drip off and it'll just collect in the bottom of the pan, and the chicken won't be sitting in a puddle of its own grease. But a rack's not totally necessary. That's just a nice little thing. Just a regular baking pan or baking dish, it would work fine too. And before I put them in the oven, I'm going to take a knife and poke some perforations into the skin. That's going to create a bunch of little openings in the skin. It's going to help that fat render even more than it normally would. And that's going to give the chicken an extra crispy skin. If you don't care about crispy skin and you're just going to peel it off and throw it away anyway, you could probably just skip this step. Those pieces of chicken are going in the oven at 400 degrees and they're going to cook in there for about an hour. I'm just putting them in and I'm not going to look at them until an hour has gone by. If you're using smaller pieces like just legs or just thighs, I'd probably go about 45 minutes or so because they'll cook faster than these larger hindquarters. And while the chicken's cooking, it's time to get the sides ready. Tonight it's going to be asparagus. I've seen people have different ideas of where or how to cut off the woody stem end of the asparagus. And what I do is I just cut off a third. I divide the asparagus into thirds and I cut off the bottom third and toss it in the trash. And then to make it easier to cook and to eat, I cut that last remaining piece in half. Those just make it easier to cook. You can just stir it up with a spoon, and it's also easier to eat on the plate. You don't have this long straw-like shaped thing on your plate that's kind of difficult to eat that you have to cut up anyway. So I just cut it up now instead of having to do it later. Having them cut like this also makes it easier to wash. If I cut them first, then I can just throw them in that colander and wash them easily. It's kind of a pain to wash asparagus while it's still whole, it's full length, so I like to wash them at the end here when they're in smaller pieces. Works pretty good for me. So that asparagus doesn't take very long to cook, so it just sat there on the counter for 45 minutes while the chicken was getting cooked. I've got an oiled pan here on medium-high heat, and in goes the asparagus. This will only take about 10-15 minutes to cook. I like to cook it with the lid on, and then when it's crisp tender, the way I like it, then I'll pull the lid off and let any excess moisture evaporate. You can add seasoning to asparagus if you want. I generally don't put any seasoning on it. I just like to add salt and pepper on my plate at the table. And here's that crispy ginger chicken. Like I said, I haven't done anything to this chicken other than put it in the oven for an hour on that rack. Most of the fat is rendered off and dripped to the bottom of the pan, and that skin is super crispy. Going to have some Asian flavored slaw here with this chicken and asparagus. This is just shredded carrots and cabbage, a little bit of red onion, and a little bit of red bell pepper. Put a little bit of this Asian sesame dressing on it. That's going to be really good. So, crispy ginger chicken, sauteed asparagus, Asian slaw. An easy dinner and delicious too. Hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. See you on the next one.